I'm Susan Tierney. This is Scott Horne with the Owner Finance Network, and this is an episode of Ask the Attorney. So Scott, why and when should an investor use a loan servicer?
Well, you know, Susan, first off, you got to determine what is the investor doing and who is he buying the property from and who's he selling it to. So we got two different scenarios. So if an investor is buying a home, let's say for a moment that they are buying a home from a seller that has no debt on the property, they can just pay the seller direct. Now, maybe that seller doesn't want to mess with collecting taxes and insurance and escrow if they want that collected. So maybe they want to incorporate a loan servicer in that situation. Maybe they're buying a property from a seller that does have existing debt in the property. In that case, again, the investor and seller can agree to pay the underlying mortgage company direct. That can be great. But sometimes that seller may want a little bit more comfort zone, and they just want the investor to pay a loan servicer. That way, they know the servicer is going to take care of issues for them. Occasionally, underlying debt doesn't collect escrow, but the seller wants escrow collected. And so by utilizing a loan servicer, they can use them as that escrow collection agency as well, and just not have to mess with the issues or the year-end tax issues and filings that they have to do. So there's always a reason in that scenario to use a loan servicer. Now, on the flip side, if an investor is selling a home using a wraparound mortgage in some format, or maybe they own it debt-free, but they're selling it to a consumer, that's where it's wise to incorporate a loan servicer every time. It's a fraud preventer. The owner-occupant buyer pays the servicer, and the servicer pays any existing lender first before they pay the investor seller. That way, they always know that that underlying debt is getting paid. Because Susan, I have seen it happen way too many times where an investor gets in trouble somehow. The owner-occupant pays them the monthly payment, and they put it in their pocket, use it for other more immediate needs, and don't pay the lender. They never intend to not go back and catch up, but things happen over time, and all of a sudden, that lender's foreclosing. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to protect everybody involved, and it's great to use in most circumstances.
Okay. How do you get started with a loan servicer? What do you do? Just find one and call them up, and how do you find one?
Well, we of course think one of the best in Texas is OFN Loan Servicing, which of course is part of our entity in our company.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug, but it's true, they really are. And obviously you can go to our website or to the website of the servicer of your choice, and usually you can pull down the forms that you need to fill out online. And of course, what I recommend that anyone does who's going to be using a loan servicer is get that package in advance of closing, fill it out, because both the seller and buyer are going to need to sign that. Get it all done at one time, and don't hurry up to wait to get things like that taken care of.
Okay. So what do they need to get started to find a loan servicer? To what documents do they give a loan servicer? How does that work?
Well, first off, Susan, they need to download the loan servicing package online or contact a loan servicer and have it emailed to them. Then they need, of course, to fill it out correctly. And one of the parts of that is usually loan servicers like to use ACH mechanisms for payments and collections. So maybe they're going to get a copy of a canceled check or their banking information for both the seller and the buyer as soon as possible. I always recommend you get that done well before closing so you have it fully completed at the closing table so it can be signed by both buyer and seller at the time of closing.
Okay.
Don't do it days afterwards. Let's get it going quickly. Okay. Then after closing, Susan, the investor, the seller, should make sure that they get the loan servicing package as well as a full set of the closing documents to the loan servicer so they can be uploaded and stored by the servicer, and so the information can then be input into their system.
Okay. So that's where the closing agent, you work with the closing agent to get all that information?
Well, maybe,
Okay.
but usually a closing agent is going to provide both the buyer and the seller a fully executed package for that they obtained at closing. And so either the closing agent can send it to them, but so often the investor should have a copy of their paperwork and should be able to easily forward it to the loan servicer.
Okay. How much does it cost? Is there a monthly fee, an annual fee, a sign-up fee,
Yep.
cancellation fee?
Well, it's across the board.
Okay.
I used to see many loans, I saw some loan servicers charging anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to set up a file. And people were paying it.
Wow.
Today, what I see is about a $50 average for the setup fee. That setup fee is usually paid for by the buyer.
Okay.
Now, in addition, there's usually a monthly fee. And that average fee that's out there is usually about $35 a month. And normally it's paid by the buyer. Now, like anything in real estate, all things are negotiable also. But traditionally, the buyer pays those.
Okay. And I've heard stuff about late fees, like the loan servicer, if they're late with their mortgage, they'll come back and charge the homeowner the late fee?
Well, of course they do, because in the mortgage documents that the buyer has signed with the seller, there's going to be a late fee. So if, let's say, a payment is due on the 1st, late on the 10th, and the buyer pays on the 15th, there might be, let's say, a traditional 5% fee of the principal and interest payment amount. Now, the servicer, though, has probably done some efforts to help collect that monthly payment. They may have sent out a late notice letter. They may have made some phone calls. And so typically what most loan servicers do is they're going to collect half of that late charge as part of their fee along the way.
Okay. Do loan servicers report to credit bureaus?
Some do, some don't. You know, of course, every investor is different. Some investors want their borrowers to be able to cash out at some point in time in the near future. And so by reporting to credit, it may help them accomplish that, but not always. Most of the time, though, investors don't want these transactions to cash out because they want to generate that long-term cash flow. And so you need to know what it is you want to do and why, so you can ask those questions to your servicer out there along the way. Another point, though, is that if your loan servicer doesn't report this type of a transaction to the credit bureau, the investor can still report their borrower's payment history. Normally, you could do it on either a 6-month or a 1-year basis. Just provide a verification of that. You can contact, let's say, TransUnion, for example, ask them what that process is, which is normally just sending in a letter with an accompanying pay history, and they will upload that into the pay history for the borrower.
Wow. They have to show canceled checks or something? I mean, how do they prove it? Just say they've paid on time?
They're going to take the word on behalf of the seller, I think, in most cases.
Okay, now, so I'm now ready to get a loan servicer. What should I think of when I'm out there looking for a loan servicer? What's important? Or is it everybody just the same and it's just...
Well, you know, Susan, I think there are different types of loan servicers. There are those that service all types of mortgages. They go after traditional mortgages, owner finance mortgages, and everything in between. At the owner finance loan servicing that we set up and created, this was created by investors for investors, and we have put various mechanisms into the system to better protect the note holder from their borrower. It's also to help train the borrower to be a better payer whenever possible. I don't know of any other loan servicer that does that in the marketplace.
So it's only for investors, or for owner finance?
The OFN loan servicing is only for investor, owner finance type mortgages. We don't seek other types of mortgages out there for servicing purposes that so many other servicers do. We're very specific, we're very narrow in our focus, which I believe makes us very good in this industry.
Great information, Scott. Thank you so much. Hope that you learned a lot from this loan servicing segment, and we will see you again soon.